but they almost have a kind of functional purpose for her. Her work is sort of grounded in all of her research and studies about ancient female archetypes. And so a lot of these geometries and things like that come from a range of different kinds of interests in sort of ancient traditions and sculptures. One is she has found this connection to Ibiza, the island off the coast of Spain. And so she's been researching the ancient traditions there, and I think it's in some of the writings there. I'm forgetting some of the details, but both references to ancient Greek culture and Phoenician culture, and some of the different sculptural elements and ideas about the form of the tomb and the form of the pyramid. And so she makes these drawings that are kind of almost, she describes them as almost tools for meditation. And the main part of the installation is here. You're welcome to go inside. You can sit on the pillows if you want. Oh, wow. And this is part of it. And when we were first talking about this installation, we were talking about, you know, she has this idea. You're welcome to come in. How art can serve, she wants this sort of an opportunity, this idea, art can serve as an opportunity for the idea, I'm sorry, my brain is all of a sudden blanking on the word I'm trying to remember. It's not coming to my head. Anyway, so the idea of the tomb and the pyramid as a form traditionally is as kind of female archetype in this space of not just emptiness, but emptiness even in the Buddhist tradition as well, as a sort of move towards something larger or enlightened. And so she's trying to create an installation, an environment that sort of leaves room for the viewer to occupy that space. Refuge, that's the word I was looking for. So in this moment where even the term refugee is something that's sort of out there a lot, she's trying to play with this idea of her work being a refuge from other experiences that we deal with in everyday life. So again, interestingly enough, I didn't know that, for example, Maria Angelis was going to propose the project. She proposed about everyday grappling. And this is another sort of way of grappling, right? This idea of art having this purpose or giving ourselves some space for that kind of refuge and kind of stepping away from the outside world, which you can see from this space, but to have this kind of sort of moment that is somehow separated, but in a sort of just open, suggestive way. These sculptures and rocks will move around when she comes throughout the installation. We're going to have different performances, sound baths, and meditations that will take place in this space as well. And anyone is invited to come and just sort of use the space how they're sort of inclined to do that.
So we don't move these.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
I just want to make that clear.
If they get moved,
they get moved in time.
Okay.
And these actually, like, they can be touched. I don't think we want to like tell people to touch them,
Right.
but they're. I mean, it's okay.
What is that sound that we're doing?
That's the installation next door.
Oh, that's not this.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was, okay.
I know, and it's okay, but it's definitely. I know, it's kind of. We're trying not to sort of move noise, like the white sound of it. The white noise.
I'm assuming the blue pillows is not for chance, it references the word.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The blue pillows references the blue and the pink.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just to kind of connect them and draw them together. The paintings for her, she describes almost as a sort of tool for meditation or a kind of representation of some of the space that she wants to create with the installations.
In the installation, I think this is great. I don't know why, but I just do. But you've got, it's the most geometric of the rooms, sort of. Was it her intent to be geometric room, or
It was my intent.
I think it's great. I think it's great that you can see outside but not be outside.
Yeah.
You can have all.
I invited her to do this
Rectangular
installation
things.
in this space because I had that vision for it.
I think it's cool. I think you do.
I saw a version of this installation at a gallery in LA, and knowing that these were some of the spaces we were going to be working with, I just thought this would work well.
So
And
what
so you can
happens
see,
in the
by the
evening?
way, sorry.
What happens in the evening with this space? Does it completely close off or does it have the lights?
Well, there'll be some light. It's actually, this installation, like at sunset, is kind of amazing because the light reflects off of these in the most magical way. It's really gorgeous. I will say, as we move through the space, and as I'm now starting to think about the next cycle of shows here, you'll see that there are some, like this, we block this off because they are really different projects, the next one over and this one. Probably in the next cycle of shows, we'll have this one will be all open in one exhibition, but we have these screens that we also, because of like emergency exit kind of situations, can be raised and pulled up. But so this is sort of Ellen's clever way of dealing with this sort of separation that's not permanent.
That's not to lean against that.
What's that?
That's not to lean against
Yeah,
that.
do not lean against that. It is just a blind. It's only like.
I touched it by mistake.
It's fine. Don't
Very-
fall.
Very movable.
Yeah, very movable. Okay, let's go ahead next door.
It's getting harder and harder.
I don't know what. Don't let me forget it.
So, this artist, Alan Nakagawa, is an artist born here. Come on. Los Angeles-based artist. His family is from Hiroshima, Japan, and immigrated to Los Angeles following World War II. So again, without meaning to, the connection to that history. And much of his work is looking at his own personal history, his family's history, and the experience of cultural assimilation that have affected his life so much, and the sort of culture that he grew up around in Los Angeles, the Japanese American community. He also is an artist who he's, I would say, probably in his late 50s. He's worked in public art a lot. He worked for the LA Department of Metro Transportation. He is someone who's gaining a lot of attention at this point in his career. He was a musician. He's had a podcast and interviews all kinds of artists. He's very keyed in, and the sense of community is a really key element of his practice. He also works primarily in sound. So doing audio interviews and working with sound as a medium is actually a key element of what he does. This is a bit of this is a whole new project that he proposed to us that definitely has a sound component, but it has all of these other elements as well. So there are 3 pieces. I should just explain this. His exhibition is comprised of 3 pieces. This piece is called Rescue, and it was inspired by a dream that he had where he was driving in the car with his mother, his, who he still is very close with, but takes a lot of time. She's a little bit elderly, and so caring for her is an important part of his life and his siblings and family as well. And so in his dream, they're driving through a park, and all of a sudden, this is his dream, there's a sort of giant wave that parts, almost like, here's the image actually, right here, that he's drawn on this sheet. And the wave, he realizes, is comprised of hooded figures, KKK figures. And so he's instantly terrified that he and his elderly mother, his Asian mother, are surrounded by these waves of KKK figures. And so in a panic, he drives away, and then, they escape to safety. So that dream was really troubling to him, and he couldn't kind of get it out of his head. And a couple things happened. He was invited to go and be on a panel and talk in Indiana, where there's a history and a museum so kind of baffled by that he, while there, bought a white sheet just to have many years ago. And he wasn't sure what he was going to do with it, but he knew he wanted to do something because this dream is in his conscience and he can't shake it. Then he decided to, through some friends, contact a Jungian dream analyst who he recorded, who he had a session with. Where so the recording you hear here is his session with this dream analyst and Alan. And it's amazingly sort of poignant, personal, and just him trying to understand what that dream is about. I'm tempted to, I won't give it all away, but it's, on one level, the work is very much about, as a person of color in this country, that sort of fear of racism that he lives with on a daily basis. But it's also very much about his relationship with the Jungian dream analyst. The other element you will see is sort of, as he's thinking about this sort of subconscious imagery and like where he even has imagery, or the image for him, why all of a sudden would imagery that came into his mind while he's sleeping, right? So he started to kind of inventory for himself where he had seen that kind of imagery throughout his life. One time was as a student at UCI when he was walking across campus and looked up in the dorm window and someone was put in the window and looking down at him. Others were in movies, different historical movies or more recent movies, Spike Lee, all different kinds of things. So each of these little watercolors he's done is this sort of personal archiving for himself where that imagery sort of comes into his consciousness. I know it's a lot. The next element of the piece, and I invite anyone to sit down. You can sit on the bench or you can sit in the chair. Someone be brave and sit in the chair. I'm going to ask, hang on one sec, watch the video for a second. Let me see if I can.
I know where they met.
I know, this gets a little,
Because usually you can feel it when you sit in the chair.
Yeah.
You can feel it? Okay, okay, sorry. Maybe it was just the moment that I touched it. Okay, so, as I said, so Alan works with sound.
Yeah.
And so he's created this video installation that's kind of a way to bring in all these various elements that I described to you together. So these are more of the watercolors that he's done, some kind of found archival footage. And then these ideas about, like I said, assimilation and Japanese culture, ideas about kind of feminine ideal, that for him growing up in his house, his aunt was a hairdresser. I mean, and often his family members would say to get their hair done in this thing that for him reminded him also of the KKK. Or there's also like the drawing there from, like he went to Dodger Stadium a lot, and the strikeouts and the Ks. Also all of these sort of like things as a child that he was kind of confused by, but that were a part of his life. And so this association of the hairdryer, I mean, and they're not necessarily logical, it's sort of all in this kind of dream sense, right? Maybe, yeah. I mean, but also he has very fond memories of like sitting by his grandmother while she would get her hair done in a beehive. Also that kind of like cone shape. And this idea of like, you know, these women coming to this country and trying to fit into the larger American culture. So, yeah, there's a lot of like layers to it. The sound is also a subsonic sound, so when you sit in the chair, you can feel the vibrations. So you're not necessarily hearing everything. A lot of his sound work plays with the kind of tactile experience of sound, how you can feel sound as well as hear it. There's another element, a lot of his work has been about actually the way that the ear works. This is actually a video of the cochlea in the inner ear, and these kind of, so again, this idea of like subconscious, sub-sound, like the subsonic, and these kind of underlying messages, like when he would go to Dodgers games and see those Ks and those like kind of abstract associations that he would make to these things that aren't necessarily very clear or logical, but have this kind of dream logic to them. There's where he bought the sheep. So it's kind of pulling all of those elements together. Does that make sense to you guys?
You know, it's not been very long since Orange County has had an open. In fact, I think elements of it still exist. The Cook's Land. I mean, Docents ought to know that.
Yeah.
They meet at that Phoenix Club.
Yeah, in February or March, we're planning a panel discussion where we're going to work with some historians.
You know who writes about that is Gustavo.
Someone who mentioned that. Right, and it's not just, you know, African Americans or Asian Americans. There's also a strong history to the Latino community, and particularly in California, that history of the KKK. So I acknowledge that it's a really intense and challenging subject matter for us to take on, and so we are going to be doing a public program in the spring where we'll bring in some historians. There's a professor at UCI, for example, that actually studies that history, and so we're thinking now about who makes most sense to bring together for that conversation.
Who's the professor at UCI?
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I think in my grade studies,
Okay.
maybe history.
Oh, okay. Is it just the number?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know how many. But it could be. Right? So,
Very good.
yeah. So what? Oh, yes. And that just happened. Alan and I had
the Regency radio.
that movie is unbelievable. Yeah, Alan and I went to go see it.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the next one.
Is there a reason why the camera on
The left announcement.
I would say that. I mean, maybe. Yes. Lie down on the bed. So this piece is called, Peace Remnants, Hiroshima, Wendover, and
Yeah, this is three.
it's a reinterpretation of a performance piece that he's done in other circumstances. And the story of the piece is actually kind of documented in this film that Alan worked with a collaborator to make. He had gone actually out to Utah and discovered this empty airplane hangar, the Wendover hangar, which he was curious about. It was just empty at the time. It's now been designated a historic site. It was the hangar, the airplane hangar, that the Enola Gay airplane took off from, that had carried the bomb to drop on Hiroshima. And so Alan became fascinated he happened upon this hangar by accident. He was out to see Nancy Holt's sun tunnels in Utah with some other artists or whatever. And so he, as a sound artist, became fascinated by this site. And he also had spent time in Japan at the Peace Dome in Hiroshima, which is now a very kind of active and bustling place. And so he decided to make sound recordings. That's him recording in Hiroshima. This is the hangar in Utah. And so what you're hearing in this space is the combination of the sounds of those two places brought together through these recordings. So not only do you hear them, but when you're laying down or sitting on the beds, you can feel those places. You're physically feeling the sound that he recorded in those two incredibly distant but powerfully connected locations. Also, Barbara, do me a favor, touch the window there. No, the metal. There you go. It vibrates. So, this sound for each one, it's I think the left ear and the right ear, or right ear and left ear, it's not so important, is separated from the bed and to the wall, from the bed to the wall. So he's also transcribing those recordings into the building here. Physically, the sound you can feel when you touch the windows. And there's a third one in there. So there's 3 different sites that were recorded, and each one is separated left and right here to the bed and the window space.
Did you say the Enola Gay? Did you say it was in Utah?
Well, so this was the airplane
what is he recording from there if that building is empty?
The empty sound. And then at a certain point you hear people talking, just the space, what it's like to be in that space. But so he and I had a lot of conversations about what you actually hear, how it makes you feel. My interpretation was that it sounds like an airplane.
Yeah, it sounds like the impending flight race.
Right, and there's a sense of anticipation, and it's very mechanical.
It's been ominous.
Yeah, and the metal.
Feeling the vibration.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple piece, but on a certain level, but how it uses it. He's also going to do a performance here that, where I first saw this piece, that kind of convinced me to want to work with him. He's done it as a much louder sound performance where you get earplugs and you can hold a balloon. You can feel the vibration in the balloon. And it's crazy intense just to feel that sense of like that the sound is this physical thing. So,
How long is the recording? How long did he record the sounds?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. I know it's a loop and it, I don't know if it's here. I can ask him. Okay, one more project of his, and then we have So the last piece of Alan's that, in our conversations, he and I we're talking about how I wanted this space to function and this idea of things evolving and being kind of dynamic. And so he proposed this project that this is just the beginnings of being, born and raised in Los Angeles and coming down to Orange County. He's often driven by Little Saigon, but for him it was always somewhere where he just sort of drove past and felt like, he didn't actually know this community or this place very well. And so he has started to do research, and he wants to do more research. And he's been, we have interviews with a couple artists and people that he's getting to know in Little Saigon that you can listen to. He's going to be organizing 6 field trips over the course of our time here. And over that experience, there'll be, some of them are watercolor sessions, some are meetings, there's history museums, I went with him and we met with the newspaper, the Vietnamese newspaper, which is the largest Vietnamese language newspaper outside of Vietnam that has been around for over 40 years. It's extremely important, this newspaper, for many reasons. So there are all these, the daily news. So this is just sort of the beginnings of what will happen here, and we hope that you're all welcome to join him on any field trips. The visitors will join him on field trips. And part of the question of, what we're doing is to question, what does it mean to be an outsider and visit this community? Who belongs there? What is the right way to approach exploring this community and this culture? And so, and he's very conscious and respectful of all of those dynamics. For example, he's been working with the people at the Buddhist temple there, and trying to sort of think through what it will mean. That's the last visit, to bring a group of outsiders, from our museum community there to go and spend time and learn about this Buddhist temple, which is only like 15 minutes away from us.
Yeah.
So, and just to think about like those borders of like where our culture kind of intersects with their culture and vice versa, just the history of, and it is a kind of amazing history of how Little Saigon developed and why, and particularly again if we go back to this idea, as I mentioned in the beginning, of our impulse in making this time for the museum a way to a sort of research question of what it means for us as an institution to explore the Pacific Rim.